What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Foambirds RC. I'm Hugh, and first off, I just wanted to apologize to all of you guys for the long delay between videos. I think it was about 2 months. Start of the school year, start of 9th grade, things started getting busy, and I didn't have enough time to make a full video. But I did have enough time to work on my airplanes a little bit, and I got some pretty cool stuff done with the Fokker Dr.1. It's getting closer and closer and closer to that day when I'm going to be able to have it ready to fly. So without further ado, let's dive in. Alright, so we are switching over to the hand cam here. Sorry if it's a little shakier, but I just wanted to give you guys a good sense of just the scale, the size of this build. So the fuselage is actually pretty much done. As you can see, we've still got all the parts that we did last time. The tail, the main body, the fuselage. One of the cool things that I did was I added these side cheeks. These were actually really easy to do, a lot easier than I was expecting them to be. I got one foam board former right in the front there, and then I have just molded foam board all the way back, and it just kind of tapers off to that distinctive Fokker Dr.1 point down there, and I have exactly the same thing if I come around on the other side. So that's super cool. I really like the way that those turned out. It just gives the whole fuselage just a little bit of character, just makes it look a little more like a Fokker Dr.1 than it would have otherwise. Not a lot has changed. Up on top, cockpit area is still pretty much exactly the same. Here in the front is another place where a lot has happened. As you can see, we have got the motor mounted. I think last video I talked about 3D printing a rotary engine, which I have done. Sorry for that little bit of shake there. But this rotary turned out very, very well. Gave it a little bit of weathering just to give it less of like that metallic sheen. But I really like the way it turned out, and it fit on perfectly. It's just a really nice addition to the front, and it adds a little bit of that super important nose weight. Need a lot of nose weight on these World War I birds. The firewall is actually also 3D printed, just to give you guys a good sense of that there. So that's completely 3D printed, really strong, stronger than probably any firewall that I've printed yet. I print a lot of my firewalls. It's just a really good way to have it cheap and exactly in the dimensions that you need without having to mess around with like super thick plywood. And you can also add like supports. So like I mounted the rotary engine right here on the firewall, and it fit perfectly, the magic of CAD design. And then I had exactly the right standoff for the motor to fit exactly where it needed to be. ESC is also mounted up on there. That went really well as well. Just again, 3D printed, and I have a little hole where all the wires run back into the battery bay. And that is also where I'm keeping the receiver. So the only thing left to do for the front is to make the cowl. I need to do that. That's probably going to be one of the last steps. That's just like a little scale addition that I'm going to add on. I need to order a little bit more pink foam to do that, because it's going to be the ring of the cowl is going to be pink foam. And then I'm going to have some foam board as well on there. But that is pretty much it for the fuselage. I also have to make the landing gear, which is going to be, I don't think, too fairly difficult. It might take a little bit of time, a little bit of soldering, but we should be all right. But that is pretty much it for the fuselage. And so now we are going to move on to the part that I've been working on probably the most, which is the wings. Alright, we are back on the tripod, and before we switch back over and I give you the scoop on the wings, I just wanted to show you a very small portion of the wings, which I thought was really cool. I really liked the way that this turned out, and I just wanted to share it with you guys in the hopes that maybe some of you can use this on your own projects. So this is the joint between the center section of the wing, of the top wing, which is going to be permanently attached to the fuselage. Reason being that there are a bunch of like braces and things that I don't want to have to unscrew every time I want to disassemble the plane. So I just figured I'll just put the center section of the wing, attach that permanently to the fuselage, and then have the outer sections of the wing screw into that. So the way that this goes is very simple. So I have a large carbon fiber tube, small carbon fiber tube, and the two go together. So I have a really rigid structure. So this is glued to this bar, this is glued to this bar. So I have it doesn't have any play, very, very rigid. But I also added, just to keep everything held together in flight, I added 2 screws. So these screws screw directly into the bottom layer of plywood here. So the screws on this side, the plywood on this side is glued down, and then this big piece of plywood is actually glued to this smaller piece of plywood right here. Reason being, I don't need screws on this side as well, because that would just be double the screws that I would have to unscrew, make it look a little less pretty underneath. Because as you can see right now, it looks very clean. There's no like, balsa exposed, no anything like that. So to unattach the outer wing panels here, it's very simple. I take my screwdriver, back out this screw, that should be about good right there, and back out this screw as well. Make sure that these screws are nice and heavy duty because they are kind of the thing that's holding the wing together. So once these two are both backed out, you can now slide those wings apart. So you can see kind of now how it works, where you've got the piece of plywood, the plywood spacer, and then the other piece of plywood which the screw actually screws into. I didn't want it to just screw into the foam because the foam is very weak, and that would delaminate very, very quickly. So I figured might as well put a second piece of plywood under there just to help with rigidity and support. And then it was going to be super simple. You could just slide them on and screw the 2 screws back in. Super clean, ridiculously strong, and just really easy to put together, really easy to assemble at the flying field, and super easy to do the first time when you're building the aircraft as well. I think this whole section probably only took me about 30 minutes to design and build, and then after this, for all the other wing panels, it was very straightforward, probably about only five minutes per panel. So yeah, that's how those go together. I wanted to also very quickly show you the aileron assembly, because I just got those in actually yesterday. So this is the aileron. It's going to go right through the spar because there was really no other depth of the wing that was going to hold it well, so I just had to put it through the spar. Not probably the best choice for strength, but I did add these balsa, these little balsa spars right here to keep it from flexing. So it's actually very strong now, about as strong as it was when I had the spar going all the way through. And then I have the servo embedded down actually to the paper on the other side of the foam board. So the only thing between this servo and the surface of the swing is just that one little sheet of paper on the bottom of the foam board. That way I could get as much of this servo arm as I possibly could sticking out, and I think that turned out really well. So yeah, that's basically it with the wings. I will switch back over to the hand camera now and show you guys just the wings all assembled and how big they are compared to the fuselage. Alright, we are back over to the hand cam here, and I just wanted to show you all of the wing panels together compared with the fuselage. So this is the third wing right here, smallest one. It is, I think, somewhere around 60-something inches in length. About as long, actually, as the fuselage. So if you can see that, the fuselage up until the cowl is about the length of this little wing right here, and that one just goes right on the bottom. gonna mount, I think, somewhere right along there, but I'm not entirely sure. Second wing panel right here. As you can see, with these wing panels, the way that I secured them was a little bit different. I ran out of carbon fiber tubes, so I just used plywood and balsa wood as the tube, the connecting piece. So I'm going to have to skin it for the thing to get the full effect, but it's going to be almost as strong as the carbon fiber, maybe a little bit heavier, but that really won't matter in the end anyway. It'll be nice and plenty strong, and I won't have to worry about any of it folding up, which is really good. But then the way that I secured it on the bottom with the screws is exactly the same, just 2 screws, plywood, etc. And then here is the top wing, the whole thing, all over glory, with the center section right here, which is going to be permanently attached to the fuselage, and then both outer sections. So we got the left and the right panels, and those are also going to break down for transport. All of the other wings are 2-piece, but this one is just 3-piece, just to make it easier, again, to assemble and disassemble. So what's next? Probably what I'm going to do next, and what I've already kind of started doing, is the ailerons. I've got the servos installed, so I think it's high time that I install the ailerons. That will be the last kind of servo installation that I have to do on this. Everything else will be pretty much aesthetic. So servo installation right here, ailerons will extend all the way out, and then I need to put the upper skin on all of these wings. That will be really easy, just a matter of cutting it the right size. I already have the airfoil that I want, so I'm just going to measure the top skin of that, the length of it, and the width of the wing will still be pretty much exactly the same. And then center section, same thing, and the same thing with the other 2 wings as well. After that, I need to put wingtips on it. As you can see, it's just a really blunt edge right now, and that doesn't look good. That's not how the Fokker DR1 was. So I need to put wingtips on all of those wings. Apart from that, though, most everything else that I have to do is on the fuselage. Like I said before, I need to put a cowl on. That's going to be, I think, pretty simple. We'll have to see, but there might be some things in there that are going to be tricky. We'll have to see. We'll have to figure it out as we go. And then really the only other thing that I need to do is the landing gear. The landing gear on the Fokker DR1 had like a little mini wing between the wheels. So we need to do that. I need to 3D print the wheels, probably 3D print some other parts as well. And then we will be pretty much ready to fly. I probably want to paint it up before I fly it, just to give me a little bit better visibility and just make it look cooler on the ground. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see how badly I want to fly this thing once it's all assembled and ready to go. So yeah, that is pretty much it with update 2 of the Fokker DR1. Well, guys, I want to thank you so much for watching. I say this every time, and I mean it every time. It means more to me than you will probably ever know. It is just so exciting that you guys are, I think, really benefiting from this, and I really hope that you learned something today, and I hope that you're inspired to go out and do a big project of your own. It's really fun, it's really challenging, and it's honestly just something that I think every RC pilot should do at some point. All of the materials that I've used for this have been literally in my own garage. I've not spent any money on anything. Motor, ESC, those were all things that I had from past projects. And of course the foam board is really cheap. And then everything else pretty much is either 3D printed or it's from my pretty limited stock of balsa and plywood. But yeah, so it's really fun, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. You'd honestly be very surprised. You can do a lot of things in RC for very cheap, and that's one of the things on this channel that I want to teach you. But yeah, thank you guys again so much for watching. Sorry again for the delay between videos. It was really long, and I promise that I did not forget about you guys. I expect that I'll have a little bit more time to make videos in the near future, so definitely keep a lookout for those. And until then, I will see you guys at the field.